So in integrations, you have noticed that a peaceful integration is quite important, as we have seen in Germany and Yemen. So the integration by war is something that you should avoid. You should avoid. So in order to have peaceful integration, we need some preconditions. So let me illustrate a few conditions for you. First, geographical proximity. Proximity means the closeness, how close it is. So geographical proximity means all about distance. So the closer, the better chances you have for peaceful integration. Because geographically close means that a separate two entities often share similar culture, religion, and language. In similar culture, we can give you some examples. In East Asia, perhaps many East Asian countries share a similar culture, Confucianism, or Buddhism, religion as a religion, or language, something like that. So geographically closer, the better chances you have for peaceful integration. But not all neighboring countries share similar culture or language. Not all. In some cases, two neighboring countries show extreme differences and also extreme hostilities. You can see the many examples in the Middle East or some African countries or in Latin America. And I can tell you some examples in East Asia, perhaps the Vietnam and some of its neighboring countries, with Cambodia and Burma, these days Myanmar, and in the Middle East, and Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq. They are having the same language, same religion, but they have extreme hostility and different social systems. Second precondition for peaceful integration is homogeneity. Homogeneity. The homogeneity means the quality of state of being of similar kind or having uniform structure or composition throughout. So many people say that Koreans are homogeneous. In the Korean Peninsula, and ethnically, all the Korean race and Korean language and Korean culture are homogeneous. So homogeneous can be also used to describe multiple things that are essentially alike. A lot of things are alike or same. So I told you about the Korean example. So all the Koreans, about North and South Koreans, are totally about 77 million people. They are using a Korean language, one Korean language, a shared Korean culture, and shared Korean history. So they are all alike and the same kind. So it is especially used to refer to the notion of the state of a society, culture, and situation, and they lack variety or diversity. So being homogeneous means that you don't have any variety of the different opinions or variety of the different religions, different culture. Well, you don't have any diversity because they share the same language, history, and culture. And third precondition for peaceful integration is the volume or how much you have transactions between the two or among the concerned units. transactions is made by an agreement between a buyer and a seller to exchange goods, services, or other assets in return for money. That's transactions. In other words, something is going on and back and forth. For example, trade. In return for money, you exchange the things, merchandises, or services, or goods, all those kind of things. Or if you have any deals and communications with people, or exchange of students. All these are the examples of transactions. So the more transactions you have, the better chances for a peaceful unification. Fourth condition for peaceful unification is cognitive proximity. Cognitive proximity means that the proximity of your mentality or similar ways of thinking, feeling, emotions, all those kind of things. So cognitive proximity means the extent to which two actors share the same knowledge, same mode of knowledge. If you have a certain incidents, or people have a similar reactions, responses, because you have the same culture, the same experience, the same knowledge. Let me give an example. When you have a rival country right next to you, and when they have sports games, or football, or soccer, or baseball, or hockey, something like that, and all those people became one body and cheer for their country's sports games. There's a cognitive proximity. So when you say a certain situation, how you feel about that, how you think about that is quite similar because you have a cognitive proximity. The fifth precondition is functional interests. So what does functional interest mean? It means that it is works that are used to promote effective function and coordination of ongoing operations of different entities. So functional actors include associations for business interests and professions and trade unions, as well as NGOs and social movements. All these different groups of the people or institutions are functioning, are coordinating for the operations of their common goals. For example, the collective defense. Currently, think about the EU's or NATO's collective actions for the mutual defense or the multiple defense. Or security cooperation, it's obviously functional interests. The cooperation by the concerned groups of the countries, or people, or professions, or trade, or economic interdependence. So I introduced 5 preconditions for the peaceful integration. But the final question in this slide is that how many conditions are met for the peaceful integration of Korea, you think? When Korean people are talking about unification, they're all talking about unification in the means of peace, not by the Vietnamese mode. So no matter what kind of benefits they get, they must avoid unification by war. So Vietnamese model must not be the model of Korean unification. So the future Korean unification must be a one of peaceful unification. And then, how many conditions are met, you think, for the peaceful unification of Korea? First, I mentioned the geographical proximity. I think that is true because Korea used to be one country. Geographical proximity, right? That condition is met. And second, homogeneity. Obviously, inter-Korean people, the two Korean people share the same language, history, and culture. But 70 years of separation provided lots of differences because there are many North Korean refugees in South Korea, but they have some difficulties at the first time to adapt to the South Korean society. In other words, two Koreas are losing the homogeneity. So homogeneity, the answer could be yes or no. Yes or no. Transactions, virtually none. There's no transactions between the two Koreas now. None. The fourth, cognitive proximity. They are living in the socialist culture. And so quite a lot of things can be thought differently. So answer to this cognitive proximity is yes or no. Yes or no. And the final precondition, functional interests, there's none, virtually none. So in that sense, probably one or two or three at most conditions are met for the peaceful unification of Korea. So it is a very serious problem when the two Korean people sit together and talk about peaceful unification. They do not have a lot in common in their discussions.